Well, I think a lot of people resonated with the original movie, The Matrix, because it felt like something deeper on another level was going on. And it's sort of like we're in a dream. We're in a coordinated shared dream that acts as an illusion that is very much like a matrix. That there have been mathematicians and physicists that have tried to prove that we're in or not in a simulation. All of the elements that are involved in the matrix are constantly changing it, and that is the thing that's a little different than the matrix, is that everybody's also a creator within the simulation. And each of these levels, as we go through years of maturity, are these catalysts, as they use in the Law of One material, the catalyst that awakens us to a truth, an understanding of love, and start to see that love is everything. It's the thing that makes the planets move. It's the thing that is in every flower. And so we understand that we're learning these lessons of love. And this aspect brings out this portion within ourselves that created the dream in the first place. And we start to understand in the element of love that the people that we're interacting with and loving and hating are ourselves. And right now we're just walking around in a fog. And in this dream, we don't have access to our subconscious mind. We don't have memories of our past lives. We don't have the veil of knowing that the creator is a creator of all, and is this really powerfully amazing fact that we create our realities.
The power you seek lies within you, as we are each infinite beings living a human experience. The truth of who and what we are has been hidden from us until now. Awaken, my friends, to this new reality that we are in fact creating everything through the power and the gift of our wonderful imagination. Join me as I unlock the secrets of our past and reveal the truth that has been clouded in this veil we call life. What reality will you choose to create today? The choice is yours. Welcome, my friends, to My Reality Practice. Hello and welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on the Reality Practice podcast. I'm your host, Joey Kramer, and today's guest is the one and only Brian Scott. Now, Brian needs little introduction, but for those of you who don't know him, after undergoing a transformational near-death experience 6 years ago, in which a bullet literally bounced off him, Brian has committed his entire life to empowering people all over the world to make their dreams a reality. His journey has taught him the true principles of forgiveness, compassion, and love, and he brings that into everything he does now. Brian's the host of the Reality Revolution podcast, in addition to being a best-selling author, an entrepreneur, a transformation coach, and a professional speaker. So without further delay, let's welcome to the show my spiritual brother from another mother, Brian Scott. Welcome, my friend.
Thanks for having me on, Joey.
Oh, I'm so excited. It's such an honor to have you on the show. You know, you've played such a fundamental role in my own personal journey, and I know you've done the same for so many people around the world. It's amazing what you are doing for this community, for this spiritual community, waking us up. And, you know, just a huge thank you from me. And I know from everybody out there in the Reality Revolution tribe. We truly love you.
That means a lot. It really does. I'll hold on to that for a long time. Thank you.
I appreciate it. And then, as I explained earlier, one note before we get going here, I want to make sure everybody sticks around till the end of the interview. The last 15 minutes, we're going to be having a special co-host hop on and interview Brian a little bit more. Liliana DeCruz is going to be joining us. She helps co-host the Reality Practice Live Q&As with me on Tuesdays, but she's going to come on and she has her own questions for Brian. So you're going to get kind of a hit twice here today, Brian. We really appreciate it. So I know there's so much to cover at this point in time, and I really want to just get right into it, because I wanted to have you on the show to really dive into and lay out a blueprint for the listeners, for humanity in general, as to how we can each escape the matrix that we've literally all been living in. We're going through this ascension process at this moment, and we're all experiencing this evolution, but how many people really know what it is? Both of us, we've been heavily influenced by the Law of One teachings, not to mention all the other books out there, the religious and philosophical texts. I think the answers are in there. So really, what is the matrix? What are we fighting at this point in time?
Well, I think a lot of people resonated with the original movie, The Matrix, because it felt like something deeper on another level was going on. And so let me first start off. I don't know if we ever escaped from the Matrix. We're going through levels of a matrix. We move from one matrix to another. And it's sort of like we're in a dream. We're in a coordinated shared dream that acts as an illusion that is very much like a matrix, that seems codified and has certain elements that are illusionary. And it resonates. It's very similar to what is talked about in the Matrix. There's so many things and so many different aspects, so many amazing authors that have talked about this. And I could go into, the most fascinating is to look at what mathematicians have said about this. There have been mathematicians and physicists that have tried to prove that we're in or not in a simulation. So the question is the Matrix a simulation or is it more? And so my instincts tell me it's like a simulation, but there's a lot more to it than just the generic idea of a computer program that we're walking around in. So maybe it's not as much like, maybe it is, but Grand Theft Auto, we're walking around in a simulation. But the element to this is that we're creating it as we move along. The basic dynamics of it have been created with the observer effect by multiple people, but at the same time, all of the elements that are involved in the Matrix are constantly changing it, and that is the thing that's a little different than the Matrix, is that everybody's also a creator within the simulation. So there's a shared simulation, and there's aspects that we're also creating. So it's fascinating, and clearly we're in some sort of simulation type of existence, but it feels to me like you've woken up from a dream, and then you didn't realize in those few moments that you had been dreaming. It was very vivid and real. So kind of what we're going through, I believe, is that we're waking up from a dream, and inside, like an Inception, we wake up from a dream within a dream within a dream. And each time we're waking up, and the world we're in is much more vivid and different. And so we're at this point now as humanity where it feels like, and especially from the Law of One and all that material that you mentioned, where it feels like we're about to wake up from this dream into another dream. And so that's why you hear, the Law of One, they talk about densities. And so we're moving through densities. Dolores Cannon talks about dimensions. Paul Selig talks about octaves, but clearly there's a different level of a reality that's going on. So right now we're in this shared dream that seems to serve some purposes. There are purposes to it. It's more than just random. There are purposes within this simulation, and that's the interesting aspect. We can get clues from what the purposes of this are by our own experiences, by reading about what the experiences are, and also in general from kind of thinking on it and philosophizing on it. We understand that we're going through these experiences, and it's bringing something out of us.
That was my next question. I think you're getting into, why does this exist? What is it bringing out? What purpose can it possibly serve?
Well, we look at how your life has progressed, and don't make it too complex. I think the big mistake sometimes we make is we try to make it too complex, because it's got to be complex, right? But it's simple. I mean, we're born in an environment where males and females have to create, people have to come together. It's a constant lesson in love. We're learning about, even if we're hating on somebody, we're learning a lesson in love. everything that we're doing is a lesson of love. We learn about love the moment we're born, and when we share the womb with our mother, and the love is growing us in our mother's belly, and then slowly we learn the lessons of depending on our mother and our father and our siblings. And then as we grow, we have these relationships with friends, and then we have loving relationships, and then we have kids, and we learn a different aspect of love. And each of these levels, as we go through years of maturity, are these catalysts, as they use in the Law of One material, the catalyst that awakens us to a truth, an understanding of love. And as we have evolved to, really focusing on this in the spiritual community, you start to see that love is everything. It's the thing that makes the planets move. It's the thing that is in every flower. And so we understand that we're learning these lessons of love, and these lessons are very basic right now. The lessons of love are much more complicated when we go into the next, what Neville Goddard called the drama, like a script that's been written out for us. And we have the ability to change within the drama. But as Neville Goddard explains, and he implies that we have time loops where we go back into the matrix after we die, and we're experiencing different levels. And he's bringing out this portion of ourselves that is the creator of the dream. And so the love is the aspect of the creation that we're learning. And then this aspect brings out this portion within ourselves that created the dream in the first place. And we start to understand in the element of love that the people that we're interacting with and loving and hating are ourselves. And so the next level is a way more complicated understanding of love, of self and other selves. And so we're learning this. These are the lessons I'm learning. And I might be wrong. Anybody that's listening, if what I'm saying doesn't make sense or doesn't resonate, forget about it. But that's the lesson I'm learning, and that's what I'm reading from all this material that I'm getting, is this commonality that something's being pulled out of me. The creator portion of me is intricately linked to love. As Neville Goddard says, God is the God of love. And so I'm learning this element within myself of love. And we've just about learned the key lessons in this. And then the next level is, how do we love as a group entity, as a single self that moves on, that's able to instantly create? And it goes to a much larger level. Right now, we're just walking around in a fog. And in this dream, we don't have access to our subconscious mind. We don't have memories of our past lives. We don't have the veil of knowing that the creator is a creator of all. And the next level of and slowly this veil is being lifted, and we're slowly it's not waking up like from a nap. The eye is slowly opening to the veil of what we're seeing. And as we do, we become more and more aware of this element within us and the nature and interaction around us. And it's all about love and the creator, if that makes sense. Right.
That makes sense to me. I hope it makes sense to the listeners. I've been following you for years now, but yeah, you just threw out so much right there that I got to kind of unravel a lot of that, because love is the frequency we're all kind of harmonizing to. We've been stuck in this third density, this heavier kind of atmosphere of hate and fear and anger and greed. A lot of these things that we perceive, as evil. And I've really come to learn a lot from you, and from Neville and the different teachings about, there is no evil, there is no good. There's only the frequency of love, and it's finding that balance in between, not getting swayed either way. There's no real way of avoiding it right now in our current reality, because you've talked about it. Agriculture is poisoning us. Education is brainwashing us, and religion is ideologizing us. Is that the real word, the right word there? Politics, governments are manipulating. Big pharma. It's everything, everywhere we look. Entertainment. It's hard to not see it. But how do we? I've got a funny story after this, but how do we, how do people start to become aware that we're being manipulated But at the end of the day, it's only us manipulating ourselves to
Yeah.
grow and experience this. But how do we convey to common people? And maybe we'll get into this as we go. It might be too much to dive into right off the bat, but it's kind of that idea of how do we awaken with the awareness that it's actually happening and that we're the ones in control of it. What is the one thing I think that is it just awareness,
Right.
becoming aware of the system, of the matrix, maybe? Does that make sense, the question I'm asking?
Absolutely. The prerequisite, I would say, is the portion of learning that it's of the lessons of love is the self. The self, either love of just the self or love of others. And so we're raised in this very dense system, as you had mentioned, that is all about the love of self. And in particular, as we learn in the law of one, and as you can just see by example, you can really separate everybody else. They're serving others or they're serving themselves.
Mhm.
And you have a large percentage of people, it doesn't even have to be half, it can be a small enough that are in service to self. And the portion of service to self is manipulating others for themselves, manipulating politics for themselves. So many people I see in religion are all about themselves. They have their jets and their mansions and they're serving themselves, right? So
Mhm.
you can see these elements all around you. And you can see if somebody's just serving themselves. Now, in terms of manipulation, that's a whole other thing. I'm super fascinated by, as somebody, as a certified hypnotist, studied
Mhm.
neurolinguistic programming. When you get to know and understand how words can be used to manipulate, how images can be used to manipulate. If you've ever studied marketing, you become aware that everything is being manipulated all the time.
Hmm.
And there's so many elements to this. On an individual level, you meet people that can individually just like manipulate people all the time. You see people that can manipulate groups. You see groups, corporations that manipulate each other. And so we're walking around in a sea of manipulation and one part of the awakening process is understanding these triggers and elements that manipulate ourselves. And it's a natural part of the process. As the veil lifts, we see the reality of these things. We see behind what's happening. I think as every single day we awaken, we see other selves as self, and in that process we understand their motivations. If you notice, like 10 years ago, between 10 years and now, when I see somebody, a politician, or I see a CEO or something, I know right away what their actual intention or motivation is in manipulating me.
Hmm.
I might have walked into a car lot and I know exactly what the car salesman is trying to sell me on. My awareness of these triggers and selling and manipulations is just a part of this as the veil lifts and
Mhm.
I understand other selves and I see other selves in me. I know exactly what's going on. But a lot of people are still asleep to that. And so, it's really fascinating when you really uncover the levels of manipulation. And one thing that happens if thoughts create reality, thoughts can create energetic structures that independently become independent selves. These
Mhm.
are not human selves, but actual group selves that also are all about themselves, taking your energy away. And so we're swimming in a field of human selves and these sort of egregores or group selves, or pendulums, some people call them. But just there's an Apple egregore, right, that just like wants us to buy their phone and their products, right?
Okay.
And there's also the people that oppose it, that give energy. And it's so I know when I'm being manipulated on my phone. And so when you awaken to this, you see the pendulum, the individual manipulation. You see it all over, everywhere you go, driving on the street. And
Mhm.
so, but just that realization is just part of the process. And then you can also learn at the same time how to manipulate yourself. There's which can be very powerful. You understand your deep subconscious beliefs are what would have been manipulated by the elements all around you. And when you do, you can take control of it. Going back to what you said, part of this awakening and part of what I wrote about in my book and part of what I talk about all the time on my podcast, what you talk about is this really powerfully amazing fact that we create our reality. when I say that, it sounds cliche. Just like when we talk about love, it sounds cliche.
Yeah, right.
And I meet people all the time that theoretically say, yeah, we create a reality. It still don't believe it. And it's surprising how many people don't believe that we create our reality. The simulation or matrix that we're in is designed so that you always have just a little doubt that, did I create my reality? The creator of reality, it's almost like it can't be obvious. The reality that's created for us is always just with a little hint of doubt so that we don't quite know. And so a lot of as we become aware of our power to create reality, we also become aware of how we're being manipulated and the elements of it, because we were creating reality all along before, but these elements of manipulation were using our power of reality creation all along against us. They're groups. I'm not saying elites because they're us, but
Right.
versions of ourselves have been using this power with knowledge that we create our reality. And they're using my ability to create my reality by creating realities that influence and help them. When I watch TV shows or listen to songs or whatever, it's all been about supporting their whatever their intention is. So when we awaken to our own power and the elements of the outside world influencing us, then we can truly create a reality that is ours, that has not been influenced or pushed or persuaded by any other outside force or individual. And that is part of us awakening into this new matrix. And it's a long drawn out process. It's a day by day thing. I learn more every day. It's amazing the complexity of it.
Right. Yeah. You said, we don't quite know that we're in it, but it's the idea that our subconscious mind is so powerful that it's been creating this all along. If we truly awoke to that moment that we realized we were creating it all and that we were in a matrix, then there's no need for this entire matrix. Like the whole game ends almost. Like, I don't know where we go from there.
Well, the game is just beginning.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It just restarts over, right?
We're experiencing the beginning of it. What happens in a world where everybody understands they create their reality 100%?
Right.
And so
at this point in time would be very scary.
That's the next world will be that, the fortunate thing right now is we've been put into a simulation that feels like a dream experience where not like our dreams when we sleep. When we influence things, there's almost an immediate change, but there's a delay now. There's we have to deal with linear time. And so we might think something, we see the results of it 6 months later. We literally forgot that we created it. It's and so this period of time is starting to get shorter and shorter and shorter, the thought to the creation. And eventually people are going to say, oh, I remembered creating that. And so it's going to happen. We're starting to see it happen more and more. And it is a slow process, but it will. I think there's going to be a point where, boom, most of the world knows. And then when the ones that are in service to others come together and create shared creation, then we can change the world. We can do anything. We can stop any war. We can stop global warming. We can change agriculture. We can do all the things that we want. And we're moving towards that. Maybe it'll happen in my lifetime. Maybe it'll happen in my kid's lifetime. But we're moving toward it's happening. It's happening more and more every single day.
I like to think we're moving towards it very rapidly, but everybody's timeline's different as far as our perception of it. For you, it might be the rest of your life. For me, it could be 2 years from now. But I think since we live in such an infinite possibility of universes and realities, which is the beautiful part of it all, everybody's kind of floating on their own individual universe, their own individual time and space, except we're all here together using each other's aspects, right? I'm sharing a little bit of you agreed to be in my movie in this manner, but in your movie, I'm completely different and your timeline's completely different than mine. But right now we're in this moment, in this space where they're aligned and we're creating this, but there's no saying what's going to happen an hour from now. It could be two separate timelines, but for you, yours stays on yours and it plays itself out. Mine happens a different ways. Is
Right.
that pretty
While we're in this,
much how it
yeah,
works?
you get the feeling it's a training ground.
Mhm.
We were being prepared for instantaneous manifestation. And as Neville Goddard explains, power without love would destroy the universe. If we were immediately put into an environment where we instantly manifested, we could destroy the universe without understanding love. So we're being taken on a very detailed, complicated lesson of love. And then we're put into a simulation that relates to how we love for self or others. And so we're in this simulation now, we're learning about it. And if you've chosen, it's a choice, everybody, you choose that, hey, I love myself, but I love others maybe a little bit more. I want to be in a world where I love all my other selves, or if I only love myself and that's it. There's a whole simulation for that. And you can explore all the worlds of that. And, there's that's its whole thing, sort of like the Sith. And then there's the Jedi, right? And so you can choose which side that you want to go on.
Which side do you want to go? Good, bad,
right.
evil, whatever, love, doesn't matter.
Right. So we're being prepared for that instantaneous manifestation. And in that world, if we want to sail on a boat, we can have a boat right there. But if you were thrown into the fourth density environment with no clue, you would go on your natural thought patterns and you'd say, oh my God.
Or the subconscious.
Right. And so then you would say, you think of spiders, and spiders would be coming up, and you think, I need a weapon, and in weapons, and I need to look for enemies. And then I'd start shooting my enemies. And then I look, somebody's going to kill me. And you would probably survive a couple of hours in that environment if you had not been properly prepared or aware that you're creating a reality. So in the creator's wonderful understanding, we're slowly being taken on a very long period of time to come to grips. And for many of us, it may take lifetimes, thousands and thousands of years to reach a point where, okay, I can move to this next level and instantly manifest. And I feel like personally, that's why we chose to jump into this simulation and this dream. We wanted to be with the creator and understand this power of instant manifestation. And the creator said, okay, that's great. I'm going to put you into this simulation. And while you're there, it's going to seem like a very long time, maybe millions of years. But when you come out, I'm going to bring you out, and you can party with me at the same party, and we can all do the same thing. But right now, we're not ready for it.
Right.
And that's a lot of times I feel like when I'm teaching and I feel I'm channeling that voice of the creator, that's the biggest emphasis is you got to learn how to prepare yourself for instantaneous manifestation, because we've been protected. If we manifested what we think about, it'd be crazy world, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm so glad this is where you went with that answer, because that's literally what I wanted to talk about next. In that aspect, I say a lot of times, if we had that power of instantaneous creation right now, in the way our world is in our subconscious minds, we would literally blow the world up in 10 minutes. I mean, aliens would invade, nuclear wars, famines. I mean, all of our most fearsome, subconscious thoughts would just start creating instantly. And then, you're right. It's all about learning how to consciously create out of love. And that's what this whole game is. And that's the funny story I wanted to bring up. And I don't know if you even are aware of it. Over the last few years, we've been friends on Facebook 3 different times now. You've unfriended me twice.
I don't remember doing that.
I know. I used to be this is about how my evolution has grown over those last few years. I've been the past 5-6 years, whatever, I've been very heavily into conspiracy theories, right? And I used to post a lot of my thoughts about it a few years back. And I noticed, every once in a while you'd unfriend me, and it's like, what the hell? Brian unfriended me again. And, because you're like, I don't want to talk about pendulums. I don't want to talk about, the cabal, whatever you want to call it. So I continued posting whatever. And then we became friends again, like a year ago, I think. And I don't know, whatever I posted, something happened. And I look back, I'm like, what the hell? Brian unfriended me.
I don't remember, if it was like, I avoid the conspiracy period. It's not about you. Right. If I see somebody that's really posting that stuff, I don't want to see it because it manipulates me. I'll get pulled into it, right? Yeah.
And I am 100%. I do not hold any grudges on this. I understood why you did it, because back then I couldn't understand I couldn't see the truth, I guess, that there is no evil, right? I was at that point in my life, at my stage of evolution, where I was still wanting to see justice. Now, will justice be served in whatever manner, form it should be? Sure, but that's for God. God, the creator, decides that. We're just here playing the roles, right? And for me, what I've learned is, regardless of the perception, the perceived evils that may or may not be happening, they're happening for a reason, to awaken us to what you're talking about, in this idea that that veil has to be pulled back slowly. And we have to slowly understand and learn to live from compassion and forgiveness and love, so that we do not blow up the world instantaneously when we're given this ability to create. So what's happened for me over this journey of a few years is I've really learned to look from the outside at what's happening. And I no longer blame anything other than this was the path I had to create, the movie I had to create in order to awaken me to my true power. And I feel that we're all living through this, as a collective, but we're just at different levels. And I believe that when everything plays itself out, when we finally transition, whatever that means, I think there's going to just be there's going to be a need for a lot of us to help people heal, to help people understand that we created this ourselves for a reason, and it wasn't about right or wrong. It wasn't about politics. It wasn't about anything. It was literally for us to awaken to our true power. And I that's something I'm grateful for you.
Well, I appreciate that. I fall into that stuff too. I've gone down those rabbit holes. And so, the biggest thing that I personally realized when I started to believe the cabal is behind everything is I was giving my power away.
Right.
There's this cabal out there that has power over me, and they're going to control the world and do all these things. And maybe it's true, but I don't want to give them my power anymore. And so it was never about not believing that aspect of the truth. It's just about, I don't want to, continue to bring that into my field of energy. So I honestly don't remember that. One of, my Facebook group my Facebook got shut down once. So I think the first time was just because Facebook got weird and shut me down once.
I remember that sucked. I know for you lost a lot of followers, a lot of people in that group.
It's all good, but I mean, but and I never figured out why, so, but who knows? You could, as you've seen, if you want to believe in that, that's fine. It will work against you.
Right.
You'll always be putting,
it's the idea of pendulums, right? If we give it too much power, then we get stuck on that.
There is no
aspect
fiction
of it. And
there is no fiction. If you continue to delve in that's real, then you'll be moved into a timeline where there is an evil cabal that's doing all these things. So I mean, all of it is true. Assume that all of it is true, and that if you want to continue to follow along in these conspiracy theories, then you're going to just go ahead and exist in a reality where that is heavily what's going on all the time.
Right. Perpetually just continuing to create more and more of it.
Right.
Versus finding that center, getting back to being an outside observer. I think you talk about it, and the idea of we're either observing from the inside outwards, or we're observing from from others' points of view, looking back at us. So it's like that's where the compassion comes from, and that forgiveness, because when we're just viewing the world from our own internal, it's very self-serving. But when we can hop into that other person's eyes, that other person's mind, see, feel, hear, understand what they're thinking, it changes everything, right?
And I can envision a time in the future when the social memory complex forms, and the veil is more lifted, and we can kind of almost read each other's thoughts, that we're going to have to forgive the cabal. The cabal is also we're going to become aware of all the bad stuff. Everybody that we meet, we're going to know their darkest, deepest skeletons. We're going to, and it's going to be there's going to be a point where everybody's like that. We're going to realize everybody's got something dark within themselves. And so we will heal, we will begin to heal when we realize the cabal is us. They were love of self or whatever. And then we forgive them because we're forgiving ourselves. And once that forgiveness becomes real, the cabal will be no more. The cabal will be, we will lift the cabal to that higher level. And so right now, we're just at that point where we don't understand. And so we're still creating the reality. I don't know. It's fascinating. The whole element.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. And it made me think of the idea that once we get to that point of kind of that common collective where we see and feel everybody, that's kind of like what we're doing. We're jumping, everybody's playing their own role out of billions of different roles that can be played. And I feel like when we get to that point, that collective consciousness, we can then instantly kind of go into each one of those roles. And that would be like us, like reincarnating, coming back. It's like, I want to know what it feels like to be evil, just because now I get to see what it does, whatever the reason for it is, or I want to know what it feels like to be abused and be the person on the wrong end of the stick. I feel like maybe that's what's happening. We just don't realize it because we're forgetting every time we come back.
We forget.
But who's to say we haven't been in millions of roles throughout our existence, and we're just experiencing that little bit of each one of them as a different life, right?
And there's also another interesting possibility. If we can incarnate and it's not always linear, there's a chance that, that we are one being that's incarnating in every, at some point in the past or future, I'm you interviewing me. Right. And I'm all these characters, so it's that there it could be something that much more complex, right?
Yes, and that's what I truly think's happening. I don't know.
It makes sense.
I've not as quite well read as you, owning a bookstore. Well, you sold the bookstore, right?
Right.
Congratulations.
Just because I wanted to spend more time on my channel, but I loved it. It was great, yeah.
But you've been reading all these books for so long. I'm not nearly where you're at, but I think I've gone through about 400 books in the last 2.5 years.
That's still pretty impressive.
It's been a lot, it's devoted a lot of my time, but one of the books I went through, which was a journey in and of itself, was the Urantia book.
Oh my gosh.
I made it through all of it. And
wow.
Oh man, it took me about a year of just, back and forth, little at a time.
The thing that people don't understand about that, it's like a collection of channelings.
Yes.
It's not one book written by one entity. If you read it, it's different angels that are kind of channeling different sections. So you can read your Urantia and then like one section really resonates, and then another one, Melchizedek, maybe it doesn't, there's a history. You get the feeling some of it is being channeled correctly and some might not. So as a book, it's absolutely fascinating, right?
It is. The one that I love the most is the Jesus Papers. That really, I'm not a
totally interesting. Yeah.
Like religion. I've never been huge into religion growing up. I've been spiritual, but it hadn't been until the last few years where it all just kind of clicked. And it's like, oh, this makes sense to me now. But I'm just fascinated by the Jesus Papers in Urantia, because it gives you kind of that day by day, year by year, like life of supposedly of how he lived and how he was Archangel Michael, who came back, to more or less save humanity from the path it was on. It's like, okay, we're going to give you this one last chance before the 75,000 year cycle's up, and we're going to give you a couple thousand years to figure this out. So, so it's kind of, he came here, did what he did. And when you really get into, like, I had to stop Urantia multiple times, similar to Law of One, because there's parts that don't make sense. Like, what the hell does that even mean? And then you come back 3 months later, it's like, I get it now.
So true. How many times have I read stuff and then like it made no sense? I've even had times when I read it on the podcast, I'm like, I don't want to make it, it doesn't make any sense. Then I listen back to it. Oh, okay, that makes sense. It's so true. So many elements.
I think it's our evolution. I mean, it's just our stage of understanding of
Yeah.
kind of how things work and how they don't work. What are your
Mhm.
thoughts on it?
Yeah, your ranch is fascinating. The only thing I always just like a little bit of doubt, it separates the creator a little bit. It makes the creator separate from me. There's elements of the creator, but the only thing about your rancha is that it separates the creator. The creator is
On high. Oh, this,
right.
yeah, like we can't get there unless
And
we
then we have
really
an element within us that actually travels from the creator. That's they have things that are linked to the creator, and it's so that's the only thing that I doesn't resonate with me, but a lot of elements of it do. Right? I love it when they talk about what another planet. They have one in there that's like, this is what another planet that is like, and they kind of go through a description.
Mhm.
I thought that was super interesting.
It's, I
Um,
think it's fascinating the levels, when
yes,
like I think
all the
is it
levels
the
is
first
amazing.
book or the second book that is literally like level by level breaks down how intricate the universe
The
is
paradise planets. There's a
yeah,
part of me that wants that to be true so bad, to go and
right?
visit the paradise planets. It just if somebody just wrote this and made it up, I mean, then maybe they can create this reality from it. I want
Right.
that to be a part of. I want the paradise planets to be a real thing, right?
Right. It's the seven mega universes, I think, or they're not
Right.
mega, but the seven main universes. Then we got all the little universes within that broken up between, 823 million solar system. I mean, it's just
Right.
if somebody came up with that story,
Amazing. Yeah.
I mean, they're genius. I don't even,
Right.
I can't even fathom that it could be made up
And there's a
because it's
deep
so
desire.
elaborate.
I know that I feel it with you too. There's a deep desire. I want to know that stuff. I
Yes.
want to know that. I want to know how many universes. I want somebody to come down and tell me all that. So that's why I love it, because I want to know is there's seven mega universes, and I want to know all that stuff that I would never really know. There's no way for us to know except through a channeled information like this. And like I said before, there is no fiction. So if there is multiple realities, so this could be a reality in conjunction with another one. I mean, that's what I love about it. It doesn't have to, if you are reading the Urantia, this contradicts here. They both can be the same and existing in different realities. And one reality, the Urantia, is full, and that's how I look at it. When they were channeling from a reality where this is real, and that's amazing. Maybe it blended with ours and split off, and we've had other realities mix in, and the law of one, you could say maybe contradicts with it, but maybe not. You see elements like the 75,000 years,
Right.
a lot
There's
of
so many
elements in the Urantia.
similarities.
There's a lot of elements that are coordinate with it. So yeah,
It's freaky how similar they are in a lot of ways.
in a lot of ways, yeah.
And you said how we don't know what's out there, but a part of me feels like we do know all of it,
Mhm.
because we're really just our sixth density or seventh density selves reincarnated in this third density body. I think the Urantia talks about it, how like once it's like you hit seventh density, you kind of either can quit and be like, yay, I'm just going to live in paradise, or you can move on to the next density, which I think you become a star, like a small star.
Right.
And then you can move on to a giant star with the main purpose, I think, at the end to become like a black hole. Like
right. You end up being a galaxy, then you black hole. I
Right.
love that. It feels real to me. I
Yeah.
want to believe that. And in the law of one says that 6.5 density is when the higher self is created. The higher self knows all the different realities and
Right.
is always there with you. You're existing at the same time dimensionally with your higher self from billions of years in the future, once you hit that point where you evolved. And so you can communicate with this aspect of yourself that has already gotten to that right before the seventh density. And as they explain it in the law of one, right before you move into beyond that 6.5 point, you leave a portion of yourself behind, almost like some sort of AI of yourself that then protects you in all the different timelines in every lifetime and is always there. And then we're slowly, as we move closer, we're slowly learning how to communicate with this higher self. And the higher self, I don't believe the higher self has a problem with us changing futures, changing timelines. It knows all the info. And once we're connected to the higher self, it wants to, hey, this is what we, it's okay within this shared dream, we can change the reality constantly. We're not stuck in a single timeline. It's not like a time travel story where, oh, there's a butterfly effect. No, the higher self says, no, next time don't crash your car. Next time don't eat that burger, man. You're gonna feel sick. Like we can, if we tune into the higher self, which is that whispering voice of intuition that is existing with us, that is talked about in Rancha and in Law of One. I think that's part of what's happening, is that we're awakening. The veil is lifted. That's but it's so much more than we can think of, because that's when the veil of veils. We're in the third density, fourth, fifth, sixth. Imagine all the different dramas and plays and simulations we go through to get to that point, right?
And I think we've already gone through it all. I mean, we've already lived for billions of years. I believe we're already at that sixth, seventh density level. We just decided, it's kind of a game we played, like, all right, I'm bored. I want to go back and restart again and figure this out. How quickly can I remember who and what I am? Because once we remember who and what we are, it's like we jump to fourth density. Now we can start consciously creating, or at least start to understand how we consciously create. And then I feel like the fifth density is where it's instantaneous. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. So my feeling is, in the fourth density, as they talk about in the Law of One, there's still wars. There's thought wars. They even explain, as you move up through densities, you're less and less likely to participate in these wars. And, some sacrifice themselves knowing that it's like they have some stuff in there that talks about the wars between and the wars are between service to self and service to others. And they're constantly trying to manipulate, and you get this idea that there's Orion and there is, there's the Confederation and the Galactic Federation, that they're battling against each other. And so there's elements of conflict and duality that's going on even through fourth density.
It goes all the way up through fifth density too, right?
And then fifth density is love, and that's when you start to have wisdom. And I think that that you become, your intelligence level. What's also happening as we understand the Law of One is that we're accessing a light particle that's available as a potential that has a greater level of information packed into it. So it's very much like going to school, and you start at plus and minus, and then you move to algebra. And so we're moving in another aspect of this beyond the very limited definition of love and creator and creation.
I just thought of what you're saying on that. It's like back in the 70s when computers first came out and they were the size of a room. Now they're nano, chips that hold so much technology.
So each time we move to another density, we are accessing a much more dense particle of light. The density is not in the material world. When they say density, they're implying that it's a complexity. We're moving into another level of complexity. When that fifth level, it's like, whoa, we thought we knew everything. And now it's like, whoa, sixth density is even more than that. So I think what happens then, it's almost, we're in a level of solitude in the fifth density, where we're really taking what we've learned from the fourth and kind of coordinating it. And then once we move to the sixth density is where we're making a choice. Do we want to, start a solar system and create a whole entire solar system of our own with different planets and be the creator, be the logos? Or do we want to go off and do something else? So there's a level of creatorship that we move towards, and we're being prepared over millions, billions of years in these different densities. That's how I feel. That's what it feels like from the material that we're talking about.
I love that. I've thought the same thing. It's like, as we progress up, we learn to control and create more. Like right now, we're learning how to create for us. And then in the next level, we'll learn how to create for us and maybe those around us.
And them.
And then us and the whole world. And then us and everything on planet Earth. And then us and everything in the solar system. And it's just like this gradual evolution of learning to create more and more, kind of like a juggler, right? How many balls can we juggle? Right now, it's hard enough to juggle two, but once we throw in that third one, we get there. And then the fourth one and the fifth one. And before you know it, we're juggling 12 balls and we're creating literally everything.
Well said. You know, it's you get a lot of information from when in the law of one, when they define a human in third density as a mind, body, spirit complex. So when you look at, like, for instance, my cat is a mind body complex. The spirit may be missing, but maybe the spirit develops and it becomes a mind body spirit complex. There's a point where it's just body, and then there's a point where the mind starts to take into account, you can understand basic complex, and then the spirit takes form. And so the next level is mind body spirit social memory complex. So you're beyond just your body and your mind and your spirit, but you're an interacting group of spirits at the same time. And then so what could possibly be the level after that? Like you said, like mind, body, spirit, universe, or mind, body, spirit, solar system complex, where you are all your planets or stars. And so all I know is there's one thing I always have to remind myself, is that there's a law of confusion in this density. We will never know the full truth of it. We have hints, and if we really seek it out, we'll get feelings and maybe knowledge from our higher self, but we'll never truly know. But there's a part of me that really wants to. Right?
I want to know so much, so badly. It's like, can we just know now? But I think you're right. Once we know, it we leave this and move on to something else. I mean, we can't possibly know it here. Otherwise, it interferes with our free will. It interferes with our ability. We then literally become God on earth amongst mortal men, which I don't think is possible. Maybe, I don't know.
Consider a universe that's full of different gods of different planets, and then the gods of planets have a god of the sun. There's levels to it, and then so it's just, we're moving up these different levels of creatorship and infinite. It's a perfect, wonderful, beautiful system. Absolutely fascinating to me.
Absolutely. And this whole conversation has been totally fascinating.
It's been great.
I could keep going for hours. So I'm gonna stop here so we can bring on Liliana.
Hey,
there you are. Hello.
Hey.
Gosh, I can't believe I'm meeting Brian Scott. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, this is a dream come true. And I actually manifested this on the 21st of June, 2020. This thing right now, it's funny edited. Thank you so much for having me on the show, Joey and Brian, because basically this book changed my life. And as Brian explains, reality is real, and I've created my own reality. So I don't have any clever questions for Brian. I'm just really excited to be here because it's a major part of my journey in spiritual awakening. So I just would like to add to, because I'm sure you already asked all the questions, Joey.
Yeah.
Oh, there's plenty more.
We've talked about some crazy stuff. I'm sure whatever you asked, we went crazy, didn't we, Joey? So.
Yeah, we got deep into your rancho law of one and the whole reality of everything. We solved all the world's problems literally in the last hour.
So take me to the stars then. I have only basically 3 questions because I know how deep you probably went in the show, and I want to finalize the last bit with some simplistic questions, because I see that Brian using the law of attraction to become his great, or law of attraction become his greatest strength in creating his own reality, and not just for himself but for everyone. And with that, I just want to ask Brian how he's using that because he talks about on his book, but it's not for me, it's for whoever is viewing, how he's using that in relation to reality transurfing, how you're using that in creating your reality transfers in Brian.
Transurfing is an interesting book that you can read. It's kind of a big, thick book. It's really made up of 5 separate books that was written by a Russian writer, Vadim Zeland. And so, if you read it, it's very Russian, and it tries to create a sort of different language to a lot of the stuff we are already talking about. So you might read it and think, oh, I'm reading something brand new. But really, when you read it, it's a lot of stuff that we already talk about in most law of attraction. There's some interesting elements to reality transurfing that are emphasized, that are helpful tools for people that are sort of advanced law of attraction students, I kind of believe transurfing is sort of a software that you can implement. It doesn't, you could use something else that'll work, but if you use transurfing, it's a way of understanding the reality creation. Vadim Zeland is a physicist, and so he's using a lot of language and examples that take understandings of physics to another level. So the main things that I got from that, that it really helped me is understanding the flow of energy as you're integrating with this networks of energy. There's a flow to it, and if you just look at nature, you can see this with water, right? Like the water always is going to come to balance after a while. And if you start to look at nature in general, you can see a reflection for how you create, because everything is always coming into balance. You can see this reflected in Walter Russell's work, where he talks about light, and it's just a principle of everything. We have certain laws that we work with in this dream or simulation that, and so understanding balance is a big key. The transurfing helped me to understand. When in the old days, I might have a girl I really wanted to go out with, or a job I really wanted so bad, and I would just, okay, I'm gonna sit for I'm gonna meditate 12 times today, and I want this so bad, and I'm gonna pray, please, 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 I want this, and I want this so, and I would just get so excited and so worried and nervous about it. I gotta have this, please. And so anything that you really want to have badly, you will never get it. You will never get it.
I've experienced that already.
Yeah.
So.
I think we all are. I think it's human nature, right? I want that job so bad. It's the job I want. I want that girl. She's got to call me. She's got to call me, right? And you so excess potential is something that's a dynamic in nature. And it's the energy that's involved. If you stand on the edge of a cliff, you're still doing the same thing. If I stand up in this room, you're still standing, right? But there's this energy of, if I take another step, I'm going to fall, right? And this energy actually takes a part of the reality creation that you're doing.
Exactly. Are you interrupting?
Oh no.
No, he's gone.
He'll be back. Let's see.
Oh gosh,
He froze up for a minute.
So if you reduce,
there you go.
Is my internet going out?
Yeah, you froze up for a minute.
Where did I stop? Where did I stop?
You were in edge of the cliff. You said it was taking, it's taking your energy to create.
Okay. So if you're on the edge of the cliff, it's different. So there is a level of energy that's moving around, no matter what your situation is, that's created by your situation. So if you reduce your level of importance, then a lot of times that thing that you want, you don't push yourself off the cliff. So, I started understanding when I was placing too much importance on things, and and it would really, really help me understanding. There's some other interesting tools, understanding frames as a part of visualization in relation to, it's a way of visualizing, understanding the flow of energy. The alternative space is another really fascinating thing that Zeland writes about. A lot of the stuff about transurfing on the outside of transurfing is kind of, if you go start looking it up and see what other people are saying, a lot of what I see is not really about transurfing. So I would say, if you want to know about transurfing, just stick with the book itself. That's where you're going to learn the main elements.
No, isn't it?
The book is where the information is. And the Zeland also wrote a sort of sequel that has some elements that are super fascinating. The Plat, it's which I'm fascinated with. When you really start to visualize the elements of reality, you actually are creating multiple realities that have been created from your past and future. You're you're an educator, but you have a comic book hobby, and you know all these things that are a part of your identity. Imagine them like strings that are all like pulling into one central point. And if you were to visualize it in your energy body, it's all kind of behind you, like a ponytail almost. And so there is a sort of energy network or bundle that they talk about in yoga. It's the bindu, and so when you start to become aware of this, that you can change your reality by loading up realities into this plat. And I mean,
that you shared with us, because you have such a variety of content, and it's so much. Keep on it. I can't keep up with everything anymore because it's a lot, but we're learning so much, and we're talking about all this energy that's coming out from us. And you don't know this, but you actually, in one of your lectures, taught me how to use my energy, because I was out of balance all my life. I've been out of balance, and since I was able to balance my energy, I was able to help other people in beyond my human imagination comprehension, just by putting to practice everything you teach. And it's so thank you so much. You have no idea. I'm so nervous and I'm so happy.
Oh, I'm nervous too. We've talked many times, so hey, it's all good.
We did, because you are part of my new creation, because you remember my story that I told you when I was really in the downs. And then I knew from the first words that I was going to come out of those downs by creating this reality, because some of the things you said at the beginning, I still have it in my messages, was for me making sense at the time, because I was not in your level of understanding. So my consciousness was not as it is now. This aware consciousness is awareness. So I was not aware of the things back then. But I want to ask you something, because I don't want this to go too long. So I have.
Don't worry, it's good.
How do you describe your journey, yourself acting as God, up until this point in your life? Because you've changed so much your life. From what I know of you, you've done a lot of work within yourself, and you're presenting yourself as a completely different person, which you created yourself. How do you describe your journey acting as God? Because ultimately that's what we are, all of us as one. How do you describe that? It's a very simplistic question, but I would like to know how you describe your journey right now as a God, a creator.
You know, as you asked that question, I was trying to think of the best way to answer that, and I kept on getting an image of like a puppet. Like I'm being used. So I don't really attribute my journey up to this point as being me. A lot of times the words that are coming out that I'm saying, I feel like I'm channeling something else. Something else is coming through me. I've opened my heart and to myself to these teachings, to the books that I read. And so a lot of times I don't think it's me that's talking to you. It's some other entity or some other thing. It is the creator, but another aspect that is beyond me, if that makes sense. So I think I'm at that point in my journey where I'm like this, like the hand in the puppet. And I feel like that's what I'm just being used in this process, and it's not me doing it. So
right. I love that. You know, I'm similar in that aspect, but I don't think I've let go fully to let it just come through. You know, it's still, I think about what I need to say, but I really need to learn to just let go, so that voice, that whatever needs to come through comes through.
I still do too. I'm still working on that. I have not reached that point, you know.
Happened to me a lot because I'm very bad at speaking, and I have to stop saying that, because otherwise I project more of it.
Don't say that.
Yeah.
You're very good at speaking. You have an awesome voice too, doesn't she? She has an awesome voice.
Yes, absolutely. I love listening to her every week.
Yeah.
To find the bit where I manifested you back in the day. Because this is so old. I've got so at the time that my
look at that journal, man.
This was very now my journals are this big. They increased size.
Wow. Oh, you got amazing stuff in your future from that. I think journaling in general is like one of the best. I'm starting to recommend it almost every episode. When you talk about an issue, start writing stuff down. It's such a powerful amplifier, and
it's amazing
so much.
I fight it so often, and I don't know why. It's like, I need to journal more, because when I do, what comes out is just magic. But it's like, it's almost like I doubt myself for whatever reason.
I always do. Yeah. You know, I'm also lazy too. I'm super lazy. So when I don't want to, when you start doing it, it's cool. Right. But look at that.
There it is.
Can you read it?
June, what is it? June 3rd, 2020.
Yeah. I'll send you a print. It says, because this is reality creation. That's 3rd of June 2020. Brian Scott, you are now in my paradigm script. I am studying for better results, and I've asked you for help. This was in my imagination as I wrote this, of course, and it was graciously and freely. This was graciously and freely given to me through your lectures, of course. Now that I know where I'm heading, I had no idea back then. I see myself happy and abundant, and I've manifested to the universe to reward me with this knowledge and I will share my knowledge as you do with the world, with the same or similar teachings. I can achieve great things. For this, I believe, and so it is done. I am so happy because I believe in miracles.
Wow.
And here I am today.
That's 800 episodes ago. That in June of 2020.
Wow.
That's like 700. That's like so long ago. I can't believe that I was just starting out kind of back then,
And
I want to add to that. I truly, if I went through my journals from 2020, I can almost assure you that I was writing and journaling the same creation, the same thoughts in the same time frame back in early June, May of 2020. Awesome. About, I probably can even find the first email I was going to send you, Brian, but it wasn't the time. Synchronicities are crazy. I want to share real quick. I had in the October of 2020, and I think I've told Liliana this, for about 45 days or so straight. And I journaled about this. I'd have to find it. I literally was foreseeing and journaling your episodes a day before they would come out. Like I would literally write a thought and just journal about this idea or this concept. And you would literally
you would
produce the very next day a freaking episode that discussed that. And I'm just like, okay, something crazy's happening, but this is amazing.
I get this all the time, that there's some sort of divine timing. I'm like 40, 50 episodes ahead, right? And I don't know what I'm going to do when I start right now. I don't know what I'm going to put tomorrow. I can just pick one of those episodes. I kind of, and I have so many people that say that was the perfect timing. I was waiting for that. I needed that today. It's almost like something is telling me, okay, this is the day I need to put this episode out. And it's just weird that you say that. It's like I'm in the middle of a sort of tornado, and I'm just sort of being guided into, everybody else is kind of pushing me along to different lessons that are coming through me. And I'm just kind of watching it happen.
It's amazing and insane. I don't even,
it's so cool,
unexplainable, but it's so cool.
Yeah. I love to be used as a teacher. When I hear that, then I know for sure it's not me. I'm being used. And what an amazing thing to be used for. Continue using me, man. I love it. You know what I mean?
We will.
So do you think that will your faith play this magic role in your life for what you're doing now? So that was your faith created this for you. You enter into some kind of field that you tapped into something, because I resonate a little bit, even though I'm not a book reader and I become to do these shows with Joey, and I feel sometimes I'm out of place, and I'm not, and sometimes not even speaking myself, is somebody else who's trying to tell me things that I'd never heard about it, and I say, oh my gosh, I'm not as good as Brian. I can't teach from things. But do you believe that this faith that we hold in, which is we think this is the source, the faith that moves us to the source, plays a major role into your teachings? You reckon that is?
It does. Absolutely. The weird thing is, I teach reality creation all the time, but I don't think I don't remember creating this. I wanted to write a book, as somebody that loves books. I desperately wanted to have somebody read my book. And so I just, I had faith I could get a book out if I could kind of share some of my thoughts about what I had experienced. Maybe I even said, maybe I can get 1 or 2 people to read that book. And if I only get 1 or 2 people, and if I can change one person's life, it's all good. And I never saw myself, doing a YouTube. I always was like, I loved Aaron Doty, and I follow people, and like, wouldn't that be cool? Oh, that would be so much fun, man. It'd be like so much better than my job, selling mortgages or whatever. I always had the, sort of daydream about it, but I never sat and really like, I'm seeing myself doing this. You know what I mean? I had faith that I when I chose, and I remember the day when I had that moment, and after I'd, been shot, and I had this moment, I looked at what are my kids going to say about me? What are people going to say about me? And that was important at the time. What did I really do? You know, I kind of had a lot of knowledge and stuff, but I'm totally useless. I've done nothing. So I felt like, you know, if I die a year from now, and after that happened, I felt like I was living on borrowed time. You know, everything's happening. I want to make a difference, and I want to help as many people as possible. And that was all how can I be of service to as many people as possible?
And this is why when you create this reality, I resonated with you in so many aspects.
Wow.
My million years, we just done the podcast today, and I told everyone live today, in a million years, I was expecting to do this. Although I was writing it down with a little bit of doubt that I do this, I resonate with you because I saw how you changed your life, because you created a new version of you, a new Brian, which is not probably your real name, as you said many times, but you created this person, yourself, and I am now doing this, and sometimes I feel there's somebody here which eating my bananas and doing things that I don't do, and I was like, okay, I live on my own. What is going on there? Is real. This is real, and I'm not paranoid. I think I'm pulling another version that I want to be. I really want to be this version. So I want to be inspired by the people I'm connecting, because I'm connecting to these that I'm creating for myself. And this is the prime example. That's why I wanted to jump on. So Joey could expose this to every single person out there that's going to listen to this, that everything that we plant in our minds can be created for sure. And there's no doubt. This is a prime example. 2 years ago, I wrote this down, and I was like, never in a million years thought I was going to be, I wanted, because this book changed my life basically, but I never knew this is going to be happen. So to not to take so much time of yours, because I have a lot of things, but one thing I want to ask you is, how do you want to be remembered? Because you created something out of ordinary from your own body, which we know this is not real, it's just borrowed. How do you want to be remembered? Because you're helping so many people. Obviously, this is one of the things that you know that you will be remembered. But apart from that, what is the key point, or the key thing, the key feature that you want to be? Brian was
a good teacher. That's what I want to be, is a good teacher.
Well, you're doing cool. You're doing a good job at that, I can assure you.
Cool.
You are the best. You're the best. But yeah, I'm so honored for this. Honestly, this is just.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It really means a lot when you say that.
Because I've passed this to everybody that I know in UK, and the UK audience is now very into this.
I need to visit the UK soon, and maybe we need to do a seminar in the UK.
Yes, that sounds like a plan right there.
All right, help me plan it out. Let's do it, because I am a huge aficionado of British culture, all the movies and books. I feel like I have lived there because I've read and watched so many movies, but though I've never been there, so I want to go and visit. So.
Already manifested in one of my books as well.
All right, cool. It's gonna happen.
One of my says I will hold a seminar with you. And when I met Joey, I couldn't believe that I put, every single person that came in contact with, because this is something else. I already manifested to be with Miriam at some point, because I met Miriam through you, and she's my best friend. Bizarrely, I've got so many good friends, but spiritually, I don't have many, because they think I've lost the plot over here, but it's fine. So with you, with Miriam and Joey, and it was like become this big thing. And through you, I become to know Aaron and all these people that I meet in contact with now. So this is a reality. Write it down, that it can be easily manifested.
Right. I'm going to imagine eating the tikka masala. And yes, I'm going to imagine it. It's going to be hanging out there. It's going to happen. So
let's fantastic. It's what's coming over the course of the next couple months, Brian. I haven't even gotten into it with you. I'll share that, after the interview, whatnot. Okay. But yeah, we're getting ready to launch the Reality Practice Network. We're going to start promoting and doing conferences around the US, eventually over in Europe, and sharing this knowledge, sharing what you do and what
keep doing it. Yeah.
So many of us are out there doing right now to inspire and awaken the world. And, you know, I couldn't imagine a better person to join us in the journey here. So
Yeah.
we will definitely work something out. So everybody over in England, we're coming. Reality Practice, Reality Revolution. We are coming for the coast of England, the British invasion.
Let's
It's going to happen.
You just need to book the date. I found the venue, and let's do it.
Fantastic. Well, hey guys, as we're wrapping up the show, I want to ask Brian the last question that I ask every guest that comes on, because this show's all about creating your reality. And I always ask people, if you could, at the snap of my fingers, instantaneously transport yourself into the reality you most desire, you most dream of, what would it be and why?
The one I'm in now.
Perfect answer. I love it. We get all kinds of answers, and that's always the most perfect, I feel like, because we're right where we need to be.
I created this exactly how it is, and I don't want anything different.
Oh, fantastic. Brian, I can't tell you how much of an honor it's been for you to join the show today. Fascinating. I can't wait to get this out. Thank you so much. And for everybody watching, thank you so much. If you enjoyed this, if you like this, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, so you never miss an episode from the Reality Practice Network. And until next time, everyone, stay blessed. And remember to always ask yourself, what reality are you choosing to create today? Bye now.
Thank you, guys.